All right, people. Women and mothers are going to change the world, but we cannot do it if we are exhausted and starving. And this is where 100% guilt-free self-care comes in. Tami, take it away with your definition of guilt-free self-care.
Thank you for having me, Kayla.
You're welcome.
My definition of guilt-free self-care is women, mothers. First and foremost, we're human beings with basic human needs, desires, maintenance needs, and we cannot function at optimal level if we are not pouring into ourselves as much as we're pouring into our families. We can't do anything when we're too tired, too hungry, too anything, right? It's like we have to treat ourselves like the tall toddlers that we are in order to get the best out of ourselves so that we can show up calmly with our kids, so we can show up fairly with our partners, and so we can show up regularly and fiercely in the world so that we can make change together. Because here's the thing. The best way to keep people from rising up and claiming their power is to leave them hungry and tired, right? It's so simple. It's not easy because we're going against every cultural pushback is that we have to be self-sacrificing. We have to put everyone first. We have to light ourselves on fire. And the fact of the matter is, no, we don't. We don't. Because I don't subscribe to that channel. So I am well-resourced and I'm well-fed and I'm well-rested. And so I'm always ready to fight the bigger fight.
Yes. Yes. Now, for the women listening who are not at that place, who are not at that well-resourced, well-fed, I know what I need and I'm going to fucking make it happen place. Is there a journey? Is there a story that you have of a time of when you weren't there and some of the obstacles, the journey, the guide, the things that got you to this resource place?
Yes. There's a couple. So I started, my first career was in politics. I'll just say I lasted a decade, but I did have a stomach ache for that whole time. I was like, how burnout can you be? All the burnout. So I transitioned to that, to being a teacher. I was like, now I found my calling. What did I do? I worked myself half to death and was like, oh my God, am I going to have to quit? I had two dudes in the course of my teaching career within months. One was I went to an MD who also happened to be, he had a doctorate in Chinese medicine. So I went to him for, I wanted to clear up my skin. I was having some acne. Perhaps I was a little stressed. And I went because I was like, I've tried everything. And I have this stubborn, but my skin was angry. My skin was crying out for something. So I went to acupuncture. And sadly, he looked me dead in my face and he said, you're going to drop dead in your classroom if you don't take care of your stress. And I was 38 years old. And I was like, what did I say? The 3 seconds. Like, I just met this man. His name is Chuck, Dr. Chuck. Dr. Chuck was like, girl, you're coming to me for the wrong thing. And I was like, but can you clear up my skin? And he was like, probably not, but let's get on the table. And then I just poke, And I was like, damn, rude. So I kind of went back to sleep and was like, well, I guess I got to take care of my stress. I don't know exactly what that meant at that moment, but I was like, Chuck's real passionate. And then a few months later, I was at work with the little children's, and the little children's were acting out. I don't know if you know this, but little children's, they are a mirror. They give you what you give them. So if you're showing up as an under-resourced, hungry, tired jerk, they're like, yeah, Mom, guess what? Me too.
And more. And I raise you.
Yeah, they're right. And they're also like, I'm not as sophisticated as you. So here's your base model of I'm just going to be a nightmare, right? Because grown-ups can kind of tamp it down and kind of pretend that's not happening, but kids can't. And when you're in a classroom, they're coming at you en masse, and you're like, I cannot have 20 people coming at me like this. What is wrong with them? What is wrong with those children?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I went to my principal. I don't know, I was complaining about something a kid did. And he walked from behind his desk around me. He closed the door, and I'm complaining, and I'm thinking, is he doing? That is so weird. And he comes back around and he looks at me with concerned face. And I was like, sir, we don't have that relationship. And he
And also,
goes,
I'm here to bitch, right?
I am here to register a complaint about poorly behaved children. Why are you looking at me with concerned face? And he goes, are you happy?
Oh.
And I was like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, are you happy being a teacher? And then I was like, oh shit, I'm going to ugly cry in front of my boss. And so I held it together and I was like, why do you ask? He's like, you're such a great teacher. And I was like, not feeling that right now, because you're asking me weird questions. He's like, you're a natural. The kids love you. And you seem so unhappy. You are sucking the joy out of the room. And I was like, I got Chuck over here telling me I'm going to drop dead in my classroom. And now I have Mr. I'm everyone's pal principal saying I'm sucking the joy out of the room. And I was like, it's whatever you want. Because I really, in that moment, I was like, God, did I not see how hard I'm working? Do they not see how much I'm putting into this? Do they not? And what they saw was a husk of a person who had no personal life and no hobbies and put off friends and fun and all of the good stuff in life until summer. But I was too tired to enjoy it in the summer.
Of course, because you're recovering the whole time.
I was recovering. So I honestly, I in that moment, I was like, fuck them. I kind of went on strike in my head. And I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to work. I'm just going to do what I have to do. I'm going to work to rule. Got to be here at this time. Can leave at that time. And then apparently I'm going to have a lot more hours of the day. And that's where I got curious, because it was the how fast those things happened. And I could see in my own face and body, like my skin, again, like your body tells you things.
Yes.
And it's not, oh, you ate something weird, or it's like my body was really rebelling and angry. So I thought, okay, I have all these hours in the day. What am I going to do now? So I decided in that moment, you know what? They can't see how great I am. So I'm going to pour into my own life. I'm going to do all those things that everyone's grandma says to do. I'm going to eat a goddamn meal, a whole one. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to chew it, but cook it before then. I live in California where we grow all the food. I'm going to go to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
Going to make fresh prepared food. Okay, so now I'm well fed. I'm going to give myself a bedtime. And I'm going to go to bed. And I'm going to sleep. Well, damn it, now I'm well fed and I'm well rested. Then my afternoons, they were open. Oh, look, now I can go to that yoga class that I've been meaning to go to for years. Oh, so it's like, I'm going to walk to the yoga studio. Oh, I'm going to go to the movies with my friends. Oh, so I started pouring into my life, and I regret to inform everyone, literally everything in my world became easier. It's weird. All those misbehaved kids, way less misbehaved. I was like, oh, so when the grown-ups show up generously, giving the benefit of the doubt, not bitching, moaning, yelling, this, that, and the other thing, the kids were like, oh, we're here to learn. Welcome. Glad you're back. Glad you found your joy, lady, because it was a real slog. It was a real slog before. And I thought, and that group of kids had been particularly challenging. They'd been challenging for everyone, not just me, thankfully. Yeah. Right? And when I showed up differently, so did they. And I was like, that was a fluke. And the worst
Right.
part
That was
about
a
so
one time.
that was a one-timer. But also to note, here in the United States, little children take these high stakes tests every year.
Oh, yes.
It's
It's
terrible,
real fun.
terrible
Yeah.
practice, but it's a fact. And my students did great that year, and I thought,
Wow.
huh, hmm, a fluke,
Yes.
I tell you. But you know what? When I got to summer, I had more fun because I wasn't completely burnt out. And I thought, let's try this experiment again. So I started the year like that. I regret to inform all of you again that it worked. And I was getting along with my colleagues better. And I was getting along with my husband better. And I was like, oh shit. Did I stumble upon the secret of the universe, which is we bring ourselves to every interaction, and we either bring some sort of dried out, crispy, angry, brew, just we bring this. You know what? We either bring a rabid raccoon. We know her,
Yes, we know
right?
her.
So we either bring the rabid raccoon to the interaction, or we bring like the cuddly koala, or hell, not a rabid raccoon, just a regular raccoon, and it makes a difference. Just like everyone who's listening has interacted with the exact same child. That child, when they have had their special lovey, they've had their special food, they drink out of their favorite cup, they're wearing their favorite, superhero costume, they've been to the park, they've played with their favorite friends, they've heard their favorite books. When all of their little pieces come in alignment, they are angels straight from heaven. And you think, God, I am so good at this parenting thing.
I nailed it.
Look how
Yeah.
well behaved my kid is.
Yes.
I am magic. And then there's the days where nothing goes right for your little person. And it seems like they are hell-bent on bringing everyone down with them.
Yes.
We do that to everyone else too.
Because we are big toddlers.
We are big toddlers.
We're big toddlers.
We're big toddlers.
Yep. Who need our special blankets and our special food and our special drinks and our fresh air and our plants.
And our little walkies and our little talkies with our friends and our little hobbies. We need all of that in order to feel like ourselves. So one of the things, so a lot of people go, okay, but 100% guilt-free. And I was like, okay, so here's the thing. I do want to touch on that. So Brene Brown says, guilt feels like I did something wrong. So if you think of self-care and you feel guilty, that means you believe that caring for yourself is somehow wrong. But if we go way back to the beginning, the first thing I said was like, we're all humans that have human needs, and we wouldn't deny those human needs from our partners or our parents or our kids or people at work. Why are we denying ourselves basic human needs? And the other thing that Brene talks about, so the difference between guilt and shame is guilt is I did something bad. And shame is I am bad. So I didn't actually come up with the name of my book or my business or my podcast. It came to be because I was sitting around with a bunch of other business owner women, and I was describing what I do, and somebody's like, oh, guilt-free self-care. Like, I would kill for that. And I was like, But as I got further into it and really learned what guilt versus shame means, I think I think moms, women feel shame that they need care. They feel bad, like they're weak or they're broken or they're selfish or they're awful. And I got to tell you, I don't subscribe to that channel because people are like, but how do you just let it go? And I'm like, well, that belief was made up. And it's very inconvenient for me to feel shitty about myself 24 hours a day.
Yes.
I mean, I have before. I'm a woman that's grown up in the United States. Like, I'm in my mid-50s. Of course I have felt like shit before.
Yes.
But when I decided that I was like, that doesn't work. That belief, that's dumb. That actually hurts me. I'm going to believe this other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I believe is I'm a human being worthy of the same care that every other human being on the planet deserves and needs. Like there are fundamental human maintenance activities that are not optional. And it sucks that because when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you can get away with like, oh, I only slept 6 hours. Girl, when I sleep 6 hours, it's like I'm hungover. I haven't had a drink since 2014. And you take a few hours of sleep off me, and I'm like, whoa, might as well have drink a bottle of wine. Because self-care gets less negotiable the older you get. And I think it's a human design flaw that we start life very resilient so that we can make the worst behavioral choices. And we create zero good habits. I mean, some of us create zero good habits, right? I mean, I'll just say I have quit doing drugs, I have quit drinking, and I have also quit smoking. Not in the last decade, right? Like when I was young, I did stupid shit because I could. Yeah. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, I went to bed at 11 o'clock. I guess I'm going to pay for that for the rest of my life. Right?
Yes. I am approaching 40, and there's some I have ADHD, so my brain makes all of these connections.
Me too.
Okay, so I am approaching 40. My husband's grandmother, they share a birthday. She was 40 when he was born. Okay, so young first generation, young second generation. Okay, so she was 40. At my age right now, my mother-in-law had a teenager. I have a 5-year-old. So it's like generationally also, there is this connection in my mind between what her life looked like at 38 and what my life looks like at 38. And being that my husband and I have been together since we were 16, I know what 37 looked like for her. Like I was there. Right? And I have a 5-year-old. And so it's so fascinating to me when I think about all of the guilt and the shame, especially in context of like comparison and social media and permission giving and what we see other people doing, struggling with. We have this wide open lens of what other people are doing. And it's fascinating to me that even in my adult toddler body, but also resource brain, I think like I have to take care of myself because my kids are also still so little and still need so much from me. The like going to bed on time,
I call that defensive sleeping when you have little kids. Somebody, I think it's Laura Vanderkam, she says that going to bed early is sleeping in for grown-ups because you don't
get the other end.
Because you can't control the other end. You can't control if somebody's going to get up and throw up on you or get up and just like stare at your face. But you can control when you go to bed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the piece of that scenario that I hear so much from my clients is that the evenings are the only time that they have that's theirs. Because unfortunately, unintentionally and like not consciously probably, they have scheduled every single minute of their day. And that is literally the only time that they have that's theirs.
The time where they're already tired, their willpower has run out, the dopamine machine of their telephone is like, come with me, get some snacks. Try to read the end of the internet before you go to bed. This is your only time, mama. Yeah, I know. I laugh at that because I know it's true. I find myself doing that sometimes and I'm like, whoa, there, lady. This life is not for you. You've already learned those lessons. I didn't become a mom until I was 40. My kid is 14. Okay. And there is a special, I was going through perimenopause while my kid was going through puberty. I just like to let everyone know that that is Olympic level parenting.
Yes.
In a way that I was wholly unprepared for that. She was a formidable opponent. I think we've worked it out. We've got some treaties. I wasn't diagnosed until last year for ADHD. And because I held it together, I held my whole life together with anxiety until then. And then perimenopause/menopause, the wheels came off the bus, pals. As we age, you know, that use it or lose it situation that people are talking about? I just want to just call everyone around and have a huddle and say, the future is calling. I am the future. Stop fucking around with your youth. These are some things I would like to tell you from the future, things that people need to do. You need to move your body. It's not for vanity. It's for your mental health. You need to lift weights because I think it's around 35 women start to lose muscle mass.
Or muscle density. Yeah.
Just so we're clear, you want to be a strong elder. And by elder, I mean older than you are right this second.
Right now. Yeah.
It's so much harder to build back than it is to maintain. And everybody better be maxing out their retirement because weight training is the compound interest on your on your life, on your physical body.
Yes.
And well, money is money and you're going to need some. The point is like, there is no later tomorrow where things get easier. There's that meme that it's like being an adult is just saying, we should get together, looking at your calendar for 75 hours and then never doing it. The magic time to take care of yourself and to maintain your own physical, mental, emotional well-being is never going to magically appear. It will not also magically appear over your nightly bottle of wine with your salty and then sweet and then salty and then sweet snacks. However,
paired with this,
paired with your phone or your Netflix or what with your dopamine machine of choice, right? But let me tell you, if you go to bed hella early, like say within 30 minutes after your kids go to bed, and then you wake up hella early, do you know what pairs really great with breakfast?
Hot
Game
coffee?
Game of Thrones. Or whatever TV shit you want to watch, because you're like, I'm making a grown-ass decision right now.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read for pleasure before I go to work. Why? Because I have 15 minutes of pleasure.
Yes.
I won't have them later because I'll be too tired to enjoy my pleasurable activities, right? And it sucks that we are now having to work on other people's calendars, right? School starts when it starts. Kids get up when they get up. So we can deny reality that we need care. We can deny reality that somebody outside of ourselves, whether it be our jobs, our kids, or schools, or whatever, run our calendar. Or we can say, okay, I surrender. I surrender that I'm required to take care of my body. Do you know one thing that really clinched physical self-care for me, other than my own aging, is so I am 40 years older than my daughter. 40. She's adopted. I did not have a baby that late. I am almost 41 years older than my daughter. My mom was only 25 years older than me. My mom died when when she was 69. And I thought, oh, I have to get my shit together for my own daughter. Because I don't want her to be without her mom because I didn't do what I needed to do to take care of myself. And I will say, I will say that I've heard so many people, because I'm a Gen X, so like we're in that stupid taking care of our kids and our parents sandwich generation nonsense. And I've heard so many people my age say, my God, I wish my parents would have taken better care of themselves so that I wouldn't have to take care of them now that I'm a grown up. Like, because you can see the decisions that they didn't make, the choices that they didn't take affect you now. You're like, I finally get to be a grown-up and I have to take care of these knuckleheads who didn't take care of themselves. And I have children and I have to teach them how to do it, right? We have to surrender that we are human beings that require care. You can't like take better care of your car or your house or your job or your kids than you take care of better. You cannot take better care of everything outside of you, because even if everything's working great with you now, eventually it won't. I was describing to my dad the other day, who's recently turned 83. I said, you know, we act like we're Toyotas for like the first 30 years of our lives. Like you just put gas in it.
We're never going to break down.
We're never going to break down. You easily get 200,000 miles. Like you might get a ding, you know, but then we turn into like vintage Ferraris, like overnight.
Yes.
And we don't have the skills
to
take care of that really fancy old car that we have now and learn how to take care of the Toyota. So A, it lasts longer, but also that when you get these more persnickety older person things, that you're like, oh yeah, I already learned that lesson. I guess that basic human maintenance includes me, even though nobody around me is doing it.
Oh,
right?
that right there. And I think that's even a belief that is so nuanced, because I was talking to someone the other day and she was like, I actually feel like I can't say positive things about my life because the circle of people who I'm in, all they want to do is bitch and self-sacrifice and not take care of themselves. So I actually am taking care of myself. I love this phase of motherhood. I have 3 kids under 6. I am like, I love this. And I truly do love it. I'm not masking. I'm not avoiding. I'm not numbing. I love it and I can't share it.
It's so funny that you say that. So when I was in my late 20s, I worked in politics. And like I said, I had a tummy ache and bad skin. And I went to the doctor and I was saying something and she's like, you know what would really help? And I was like, what? She goes, you should start exercising. And I was like, well, you know, I work for a U.S. Senate campaign and I'm so busy and da 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 da. And she was so unimpressed with me. She was like, and I was like,
what's your point?
I don't run my own life. I'm so busy. And she was like, well, do it with your friends. And I was like, so you want me to tell my friends that my doctor said instead of going to a bar and smoking cigarettes and drinking bourbon, that we should go on a walk? And she said, yeah.
Preferably at a quick pace.
At quick pace. Yeah. Briskly, vigorously, if you will. And she said, yeah. And I was like, basically, you're nuts. And I was like, so how do you propose that I do this? And she said, and I quote, and I will never forget, because again, it's like I have this crew of, I feel like, brave people who have been super direct with me over the course of my life, because like, apparently I show up as like some sarcastic asshole who they think can take it. But she goes, I don't know, get new friends? And I was like, who's this bitch? But you know what? If you're surrounded by people who look at you and are like, oh, I don't want that. Okay, well, you know what? Spend time with people who want that. Because let me tell you, when my friends figure out something and they are glowing from within and they have reached their stride, I'm like, let me grab a notebook, right? So you can tell me your secrets, because I would like to fast track my life towards what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? That scene in When Harry Met Sally, when Meg Ryan is pretending to have the orgasm and the old lady's like, I'll have what she's having. That's me. I'm like, hey, you seem to have figured out some shit. Will you tell me? And I regret to inform you, I am the big sister from the future. It's all the unsexy shit you don't want to do.
It always is. It so is. Yeah.
Right?
And as a therapist, I say this all the time. It's like, you need to, I'm anti-prescriptive in terms of self-care. Like, you got to choose what you put in your body, how you move your body, what you do for hobbies, who you hang around with, all that stuff. However, the baseline is the same. We got to put food in our bodies. We got to move the body. We got to process the emotions in the body. And we need to surround our body with other people who are like semi-decent. Like, yeah, and tolerate the ones who aren't.
And I love that because I, as a coach, am the same way where I'm like, I would just like to remind everyone a number of things. One, what you do or don't do inside your own body only hurts you. Two, if I could make other people do things, oh my God, the world would be so efficient.
Fucking sign me up.
Right, I would be pushing people out of the way. I'd be like, oh no, I have ideas. I've been collecting them in a notebook on how to make the world better. Yes.
Here I am, give me the mic.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hello, ask me. I did the reading. I'm ready. Again, it's like, I can't tell you how many hours to sleep, but I can tell you that boozing it up, fucking with your sleep. Starting your day with a gallon of caffeine, sleep. Bedtime starts when your feet hit the floor in the morning. Act accordingly. I'm a lifelong insomniac. Let me tell you, I've been working through, sleep hygiene for my life. It's like it's not an information deficit. We all know we need to sleep. We all know we need to eat fiber and protein. Apparently those two are having a fight out to the death right now about what's the most important ingredient.
What is the most important?
And I would say the future is calling. It's both. You need both. Throw some fat in there because you also need that because you've long been denying yourself that. But I'm not a nutritionist, or a dietitian or an MD, right? Every book that you read, how can I feel better in perimenopause? Oh, it turns out the answer is exercise. It turns out the answer is meditation. It turns out the answer is eating produce. If there is a question, the answer is exercise. Shut up and sit down for a few minutes a day and eat things that came out of the ground at some point. Didn't make these rules, but there is a surrender. There is a surrender to I am a human being that requires certain things. Much like that vintage Ferrari needs its special vintage Ferrari things, but it's probably gasoline. It's probably fancy gas.
Fancy gas.
Oil. Probably needs some fancy oil. I don't know.
Specialty tires.
Right, tires. It probably needs some good, different kind of soap than your, vintage 2002 Toyota, because you want to keep it looking good. Just because we deny that we have needs doesn't make them go away. I always think of it as that whack-a-mole game. It's like you whack one and it pops up somewhere else later. See how the mole didn't go away? Our needs don't go away. And plus, because pals, we're moms, we're women, people are watching us, and those people are the people that you likely made or are helping shepherd them through the world. They look to us and go, what does it mean to be a grown woman? What does it mean to be a female presenting person in this world? What does it mean to be a feminine person or a femme person or even a non-binary person? What does it mean to be a grown-up? What does it mean to be a man, a dad, a father, a mother? They don't do what we say. They do what we do. So if you wouldn't trade places without tidying up your grown-up life with your child, if you wouldn't have your kids step into your life as it is right now, that's when you're like, I need to change some things. It's like when your friend says, I'm coming over, and suddenly you're like, I got to take care of some doom boxes. Hold on. Let me do a little tidy, right? If you would not say, hell yeah, I want my kid to live my life. Or if your 15-year-old self, right? If you think back of when you're 15 and you look at where you are now, if your 15-year-old self is cringing because you're like, aren't you supposed to be a grown-up? Isn't that where you have all the power?
Are you supposed to be like having fun and like doing all the things that I thought we would be doing?
Drinking, like, what are you doing? You're just like grandma. Right?
Yes. I'm gonna close with this because I thought it was really profound. My husband sent me this Instagram post the other day, and it was a carousel, and it was, you only need to make two people happy. the 8-year-old version of you and the 80-year-old version of you. And I burst into tears. My son is going to be 10 today. Wait, he will already be 10 by this is launched. He's going to be 10 in 7 days as I'm saying this out loud. And I burst into tears because I thought 8-year-old me is like wanting to play and like have all kinds of fun and play the hide and seek and put the costume on and do the things, right? And I actually do want to do that as my adult self. As an expressive arts therapist, I'm like, give me all the costumes, wear the butterfly wings. I got this. And my 80-year-old self is like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you working on a Saturday?
It's like, why, ma'am, why are you so uptight?
Yeah.
Why
do you on your computer while they're watching cartoons? Like, what the fuck? You like the cartoons, watch the cartoons too. Sit there with the special blanket and the special stuffy. Okay, so we talked a lot about how exhaustion is not a badge of honor, why self-care is not selfish, and how taking care of yourself actually makes life easier, not harder. But I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, Kayla, this sounds great, but how do I actually do this? And my to-do list never ends. Well, my friend, that's exactly what we're going to get into part 2. We'll talk about the practical shifts that make guilt-free self-care actually possible and how kids can actually benefit when we stop running ourselves into the ground. And the sneaky ways we sabotage ourselves by thinking that we don't have time. So if you've ever felt like taking care of yourself is just one more thing on your never-ending to-do list, you're going to want to come back for part 2. In the meantime, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing from today's episode that really hit home for you? Message me on Instagram and let's keep the conversation going. Also, if you're interested in joining my Mother Load membership, where we meet weekly to dismantle all of the ways that we are taught to be mothers, to be in the world, to be women, particularly how the world has taught us, shown us how women are supposed to be self-sacrificing and never do anything for themselves. The Mother Load membership is for you, the burnt out mom, the trying to be good mom, and the mom who is always helping and fixing, but doesn't take time for herself. None of these things should you feel guilty for. You can also connect with me if you'd like to join the Mother Load. See you in part 2.